Afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today for the next chapter of Designing the Future. And we're going to talk today. Good afternoon, about, everybody. Thank you much for joining us today for the next chapter. Unfortunately, I have to, to inform that there has been a last-minute loss in our panel discussion. Unfortunately, Martin Yamin ended up to be sick today, and so we're going to run our conversation with two guests instead of three, as we originally planned. But I think that we're going to have very good answers already from our two participants. So I would like to introduce you, first of all, Marianti. If you can just say a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you're from, and so you introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marianti Tabari. I'm based here in Amsterdam, working with UN Studio on design projects. I'm originally from Greece, studied in the US, and ended up in Amsterdam. Very happy to be part of this discussion today with Jakob and Danilo and you guys. Looking forward to it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Jakob, we were just discussing how to pronounce correctly your name, and then it's always like that. Then you do it the wrong way. So, Jakob, can you just give a brief introduction about yourself?
Yes, thanks a lot. And first and foremost, thanks for the invitation. My name is Jakob Kurik. I'm a Global Design Director of Henning Larsen Architects. I'm working globally, based in Copenhagen, today attending from London. And I've really been looking forward to this session here because the topic is on everybody's lips and minds. So hopefully, we can have a good and a constructive and inspirational conversation around this. So looking forward to the next hour or so.
Of course. And I would like to start just to break the ice with a, let's say, general question, because, of course, a lot is changing in the way we all work. And in the past years, we have seen, an acceleration in the new way of working. Employees are no longer working in the office, at least not on a regular basis. They're spending most of their time home on hybrid working, and an architect working on a large scale office project. How is he or she taking on this evolution, these changes? How we will work in the future. We leave it to Marianti to start with. I'm a real gentleman, so we have to start.
That's really breaking the ice, right? With a hot question. Yes, I think the last year has changed our lives a lot, and I think for all of us that we are happy to go past it in health has made us also redefine a lot of our priorities. For me, it's not about only how we work, let's say, as a process, but it's also what do we create as priority in our life. So you see a lot of people trying to connect more now, trying to connect more with nature or with each other, with their community. And I see, and we see as UN Studio, this being the bigger shift right now. So how to create these connections, physical, digital, and with also multiple receivers. So I think it is interesting to talk along these lines and evaluate how the clients, the tenants, the people that develop new projects, or the people that are thinking of their existing projects can contribute to the priorities we all set as new and as a next step in our life. Quite general answer, I think, to your specific question, but I think I will go to break the ice in this way.
Thank you, Jacob. Then I leave it to you to give your opinion and also add, and maybe we can also, start to think about another thing. When does it start to be really a requirement, a necessity, and is not a trend? Because there is a fine line between the two things. So.
What we see is that for this pandemic that we are hopefully, we're hopefully through this now. We kind of see three learnings or findings in that sense that I would say we are coming out of this with a stronger focus on the social well-being. We are coming out with a even stronger focus on sustainability and recycling, upcycling. And I think the third thing is that we have been forced in no matter whether you're an architect or who you are, to work on a digital mindset. So the whole digitalization on how to collaborate, how to invent, how to coordinate, and how can you work in a digital mindset. And that's, I think we have been talking a lot about it, but now we've been forced into it. But I think the best learning, and I think what has been really good for all in the industry and I would say in the whole world, is the resetting our focus on keep running after the next thing, but living in the present time and care more about us as human beings, about the social well-being, and not pushing the boundaries and running faster and faster and faster. So I think in many ways it's been a healthy doctor check on all of us, but also on the globe or the planet, I would say. A big lesson learned for all of us. Do we need to travel? Do we need to do this and this and this and this? In that case, and we forget about ourselves and our neighbors or our families and so on, our clients and so on, because it is the social element. Because we have been talking a lot about in the last years about sharing knowledge and co-creation and collaboration, but we have all this is all what we have been missing, and we have. It's nice to see you guys here on the screen and so, but we have actually missing that we have been physically in the same room and seeing each other, and so in that sense. So we have learned a lot. There's a lot of things to be explored, and there's many things that will change. I also think that are a lot of the change that we're seeing now is an excuse for change management that the leaders have not been daring to do for a long time, and now they use COVID as an excuse to do a change management or move offices or whatever that is. So I think we would see a stack of knock-off effects that comes from COVID in a way that we're looking at lives and works and the balance between those.
Yeah, well, we can easily recap it with this word well-being, that it's in the office is a very important factor. This was probably also before the pandemic, but has been surely accelerated by the needs of the human being. So I think that, Southern European like me and Marianti are really feeling this lack of social gathering also for business. And I'm glad that also you guys in the north feel the same. So, and so Marianti, about well-being in office is an important factor. So how do you approach that in your design process? What is the role that an architect must have in this?
I think when we talk about well-being nowadays, and I think we see it more and more in our projects. First of all, when we design workplace right now, you stop thinking only of the workplace, but you're also thinking of the journey, let's say, from home to work. So I think if companies are smart when they start designing their workplace, they should really think in a holistic way, not only, let's say, from point A to point B, but also thinking of holistically the person, the health. I think that talking about well-being doesn't start or stop in good lighting, Danilo. It's also about the space. It's about the connectivity. It's about having safe means to go to work. It's about feeling also like a workplace, like that you can work from home. But all this in a good balance. There, I think we have a lot of physical and digital tools that we can use for that. And I think all the companies are now exploring how to do it. But I would say, let's say, maybe we have, let's say, the first priority, where is our physical needs. You have a good light, a good air in the buildings. But this is something that I think it has been done. The next part is more about comfort and orientation and kind of safety, that you feel that you are part of an organization. You feel that you can meet your colleagues, see your colleagues, have a social comfort maybe. And I would say the next parts are more about connecting in a more intellectual way and socially connecting. And being part of the office place, being part of also your social well-being. As also lighting, you guys now don't only design the lighting fixture, you also have to see it holistically, from Wi-Fi, from internet, from this is, I think, how we all have to design. We kind of curate these experiences from point A to point B, and to fulfill maybe as in the best of our capacity the needs of the people, physical and digital. So it actually becomes exponential. I think what Jakob was saying before, the need after COVID to reinvent ourselves creates an exponential growth to the possibilities that are out there to secure well-being.
And Jakob, apart from anything to be added to what Marianti was saying, I understand from what she's saying that the role of technology in our building then becomes an essential part to provoke this well-being in a sense. So how do you see that?
But I would like to just tap on to Marianne is saying, because I think what we like to focus on here up in the Nordic, that is the life between the buildings and the public realm, and make sure there's outdoor spaces for everyone. I think that what we can see during COVID is that our public spaces, small or large, doesn't really matter. They have been used 4 to 5 times the more than they normally have been doing. But I think now, or at least what we hope, is that kind of social recreational space now that is being brought more into the buildings as well. So you would not be designing for an organization. You would be designing for a cluster of communities. Then between the clusters of the communities, that's where you have the breakout spaces, because they're going to be so essential, even though they're indoor as well as hopefully also outdoor in these office spaces. That the same way of breathing in a city, you start to see office buildings as a cluster of communities that then also have the space between the offices and so on. So you need to have that, you can say, lung or breathing space, and because this is what makes things robust, but also that also makes sure that should, and God forbid, so that there comes another COVID or something else, that we are in a way we can kind of lock down the office spaces into small communities, and then you have the breakout spaces in between. That will make them last longer and make them more not only efficient but also more adaptable for future things. So I think in that sense, when we're talking about work-life balance and so on, that what has been most harmful is the loneliness and the stressfulness. And if you somehow can have the public realm bring that into the buildings, I think we have actually come a long way. And then what is going to be key for for us as architects and designers is that we need to make sure that whatever we are designing from today and onwards is that office spaces have to be better than working from home, because the loneliness and the depression and so on is not healthy for anyone.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that after a long time working from home, we really need to get together again. Actually, I was reading recently, this is a question that I wanted to ask to Martin today, but maybe I will ask it to you. Actually, we can see in the market that several companies in a co-working space, they are asking, to the co-working company to have availability of meeting rooms instead of having real office. So they are still leaving people to work from home, and maybe they have a meeting space in a co-working space where all these people will gather once, twice, 3 times a week to meet. Do you think that this is part of the solution, or just something that is temporary, a temporary trend? I will ask Marianti to start with.
I think it is, I can see a long-term effect of this new way of thinking. I mean, first of all, a lot of people, a lot of businesses had to reinvent themselves and redefine their business models. Like, let's say you have hotels that were long stay, becoming a room to work for the day if your home is too busy. You have what you're saying, spaces or other kind of co-working spaces having high demand for offices because people can work at home but then can meet at co-working. So I think you somehow, as we move on and everyone is now trying to think of their new projects, think of their new developments, you see that working or co-working or meeting or collaborating, however you say it, is part of any project. So if you talk about residential, if you talk about meeting spaces, if you talk about conference center, everyone wants to create a moment of meeting for people to gather, and which means that it's a program that is flexible enough to be introduced in a lot of different programs as hybrids, but also as what you're saying, even more in an existing, let's say, co-working space. So I can see this trend growing even more, and actually also needing a lot of diversity, and maybe also what Jakob was saying about communities and breakout spaces. I expect to see even more diversity with it, with this trend.
Okay, and Jakob, would you agree? And anything to add about this?
No, I agree, and I think when you have been sitting and listening to all sorts of clever and bright-minded people saying, no, it's no problem to work from home, it works well, it doesn't harm efficiency and everything. But then when you look at the people who have been saying that, they are all at our age and sitting in big houses or big apartments. But what they tend to forget and have not asked is actually the next generation, the young talent, because they're sitting in a studio apartment with a roommate and cats and dogs all over the place. And they have been hungering going to work and be a part of the social life, because their work or their community, what they relate to, that's a part of their identity. I mean, we can all sit at our homes. I mean, the coffee smells good and all of that. So I think it's to some extent a little bit provoking that it's been senior or MDs that have been asked about home working and hybrid working and so on, because even now they talk about that now you can get a desk and a screen back home, but if you have nowhere to put it. So I think there will come a mindset in you kind of the millennials and whatever we want to call them, they will be going to the organizations that provides a community and not a desk at their apartment, because they don't get the salary, so they can get a place to accommodate at home, at least in some parts or some cities in the world. So I think we end up with a dilemma that you might be able to have home working and flexible working, but if you don't have the space at home and it doesn't create the the collaborative and sort of the creative environment that the young generations are asking for. I think over kind of a period of time, you will see people either changing jobs or the efficiency and the innovation will drop.
Okay.
So I think we have to. I don't think we have seen the whole full effect on COVID and the work-life balance yet.
And
So,
then maybe just to add to that, I think that you remember, like back in the days before COVID, when you had community centers, you were trying to redefine the program, right? What is a community center? What connects the neighborhood? What can connect to the rest of the world? And I mean, all these projects can become potentially community centers, community innovators and incubators. And there, I think, is the interest part, how you can connect the public and the private together. Yeah, and also the people more affected, as Jakob was also saying. Yeah.
So more a fluid home or more a fluid office, Jakob?
I think you would see a more fluid office. I think there would still be people working from home more compared to before COVID, but I think it would not. I think the hybrid model is easier said than done, and we need to be careful about how we do it and how we unfold it into our own organizations, but also how we are imposing that to our clients as architects, because are they ready for it? And I mean, I think if the talent is moving on to the next organization, I think it doesn't really matter who you are, but if you cannot attract the talent, I mean, then you are then you have a problem. I also sense that what are the office buildings? What is available right now in the market? Today, I'm sitting here in London, and you can see there's either a lower segment of office spaces where it's super cheap and quick and dirty, good for startups and so on, and then you see really the high spectrum of office spaces where you pay a premium, but this is also where they can provide the flexibility. But we are also seeing this kind of the middle segment that hasn't really changed for the last 10 or 15 years. The structure that they are in or the location is not so flexible. So I think there will be a demand for new type of offices that the current middle segment and the middle market are not able to accommodate, or not all of them. So I think there will be quite a lot of transformation projects where you will have to either from one type of office to another, but also in a way there will be office space that will be transformed to residential or other purposes, because it's simply not possible to do it in that same manner. So I think we will be quite busy, all of us. Also the lighting industry, because we cannot just knock everything down. We need to look into the whole sustainability and the life cycle and blah blah blah. So we're gonna be busy. It's gonna be fun, and it's gonna be an interesting next 4 or 5 years ahead of us for sure.
Challenging moment for sure for every industry. Yeah? So Marianti, I know that you have in UN Studio also a part of the office called UN Sense that study this new technologies and application new technologies to the demand of the market. So how important is technology in the research of the future of offices, and what's coming up? What did you discover in UN Sense?
Yeah, I think that we have UN Sense. Yeah, we have a daughter company that works in the line with technology in the built environment. And also we have an experience design group within UN Studio. So both of them are very busy with integrating technology. From one side more in the product design, and the other side more in the mainly studying the impact with the cities right now. So for us, actually, technology is a very good tool that can help overcome a lot of the discussions we have, can help contribute to this goal of health and well-being. And can be also, of course, done with sensors or with meeting apps. But the question is, how do we affect also our emotional health and our psychological health with it? We are very busy with it. We are creating prototypes and testing things. And of course, there is much more ground now to even test more, actually, with this new way of looking at everything, trying to innovate.
And Jacob, I imagine also at Henning Larsen you do a lot of research on new technologies. So what is your viewpoint on this, and anything that is coming up we should be aware of?
I think there's a lot of things to be aware of.
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't ask. Otherwise, I wouldn't ask.
No, but I think for us, it's really, we have been, for the last 10, 12 years, we've been driven a lot about the evidence-based approach. So it's whatever we do is not only because we feel and see something that is beautiful, but actually it performs in a way that we can document the impact that we are doing on buildings and public realms and so on. And we will continue doing that. And that's also when I talk about the social well-being, in that sense that we are able to track and map out where people meet, how they socialize, why do they not go there, and so on. And I mean, the whole mental, so how you can program the social and the breakout space in another way, because in some parts of the world, circulation space is dead space, and that means you're not getting funding for it if you're a public organization. But if you can start to show the quality and I mean the importance of these spaces and start to program them, this is the key for getting minimizing, for instance, loneliness and so on. And then I also think an interesting thing that we are working on now is looking into new technologies when it comes to construction and minimizing the amount of cubic meters of material that we're using. So recycling, but optimizing
impact on the planet.
Yeah, we need to. We are one of the. The building industry, we are one of the black sheep when it comes to the CO2 emissions. So we need to take that on to our shoulders and do something about it. And we may have to cut things short in the chain line when it comes to manufacturers and suppliers and contractors. And we have the models, we have the tools, and if we also can, actually, we can design and build some parts of what we're going to be doing. I think we can make a huge impact there and minimize the amount of material that we are consuming as an industry.
And also maybe even what you refer to also kind of energy producing materials in a way that it is not an add-on, but it can be also part of the facade. I think that this part of research is very open right now, and everyone is very open. Like you asked Danilo, what is the new thing? But it again spans over a lot of scales. You know, it can be from the city to the building, to the interior, to the facade. So we have to tackle it holistically. I see more and more.
I also think we need to include not only the supply chain and companies like you, Danilo, but also, the municipalities or the organizations who's writing the codes and the regulations. For instance, if you take an educational facility in Denmark, the amount of locks that is described in the codes in Denmark is dictated by the cleaning people, so they can see the dust in the corners. And that means that you're not working with a focus light for concentration and learning, but you're working with the locks in a space that is so ambient that you can see the dirt in the corners. But what that also means is that the focus on the concentration in the classes is all over the place. And we have done some examples where we've been testing 2 classes over 3 months, where we work with the cleaning people's light and the architectural light. And what it turns out is that the amount of noise is reduced by 30% in dB if you have focused light in comparison to the general light. And if you give the students the same math test after 3 months, the ones with the focused light improves, or it performs 17% better compared to one with the other. And it's simply about focus and concentration and so on. And right now in Denmark, we cannot change it because it's written in the codes and regulations, but it's driven by another purpose than the actual functions of the building.
Yeah, sometimes regulation unfortunately goes against the common sense, no, and what we test, in project in real life. But this is from the perspective of a manufacturer like us. Sometimes the industry moves in one direction, just sustainability, or just well-being, or just better design, or technology, future-proof technology. What would you recommend to the industry to do to combine all these elements and make our product more applicable to your projects, Jacob?
I think we should all come to the table and be a little bit more bold, more brave, and not think about ourselves in different silos, because that will not change anything. That will leave us all in a big Red Sea. If we want to go into the blue ocean and be more innovative, we need to, put everyone together and say, if we want to change the world and the whole situation where it is now, we need to do some pilot projects, or we need to ease up some of the regulations and do some lessons learned. Otherwise, we cannot change the world overnight. But we have to do more than small steps at the time. So we need to come together, and then we need to be a little bit more bold and brave compared to what we are now. Because I think we would not lose work, and the lighting manufacturers, like you said, you will still be selling. We're still going to be light. There's still going to be wood and blah blah blah. But right now, things are not. We're not progressing, or we're not developing in the pace that the world needs us to do, or the planet.
This is. I fully agree with you. And this is the big dilemma of, I think, not only the lighting industry, but a lot of manufacturing in several industries, is that it's easier to be an echo than being a voice. And so a lot of manufacturers just do what the competitors are doing, are very successful with. And so on the contrary, I think that one of the things that this pandemic as is teaching us is that we really need to go out and being more focused and more attentive to the needs of the people, to the need of the world, of the planet, to be sure that our products are future-proof and our products are not just simply an imitation of the neighbor. Okay, so I'm saying that to the entire manufacturing world, including our company. And so I think that from that perspective, I fully agree. We need to be more innovative and look for the needs of the people. And that's a little bit the challenge of any industry. Lighting, of course, I think can be interesting because with the light we can change the mood of the people. This is something that it's very important. So we can make, there's a friend of mine who always say that the light can turn a loft into a garage, or a garage into a loft. So we can make this magic, but it's very important to be innovative.
You can even grow life, Danilo, plants and all this biophilic. So I think you can do a lot in your hands. So
Absolutely.
I totally agree that it's be brave and bold, but also really designed for the people and the planet. So don't get fascinated, in our designer fantasies, but really kind of with purpose on what we do. And I think this is why we are here to discuss about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, while we are, talking, we also receive some very interesting questions from our friends who are listening to with the pleasure, and the patience to listen to our conversation. I have a question from Chiara. She's a student of interior design in Italy, and she is asking, as COVID-19 pandemic demonstrated open air is important, are there any new design ideas for office pods placed partially or totally in open air? Who would like to answer?
I can start, and I think
Sure. Go ahead.
we can. We have more and more the challenge to design outdoor and indoor, of course, workplace. Outdoor, what we do in, let's say, for example, in a project in Amsterdam, we try to connect the indoor to the outdoor and can create a big loop through the building. So you can be, let's say, you can be doing a walking meeting inside and outside, but also use the rooftop as a workplace. There are a lot of benefits in this kind of walking meetings, outdoor walking meetings in terms of, I think, well-being, inspiration, but also kind of collaboration. Somehow everyone says that when you are outside your established environment, then collaboration is increased because everyone sees each other in a different way. Your body is positioned in a different way. So we see that more and more. And of course, with all the maybe new master plans we are doing, this becomes a topic that is not yet built for us, but you see it maybe in cities in smaller scale, and integrating it more in the bigger buildings, but in a kind of indoor-outdoor relationship.
Jacob, anything to add or a different?
No, I would agree in that sense that I think what we will see in the architecture and space planning is that we will start to blur the lines between indoor and outdoor more. But also, I think we will see a greater variety of spaces that kind of spans from the open plan to the traditional meeting rooms, because we have kind of learned and seen that during COVID that we all have different needs, how to collaborate and do concentrated work and things like that. But also that, we will also have the walk and talk kind of meetings and things like has been, very successful in this period of time. Something was performed, whether you people say, is it actually walk or is it actually work or is it, are you just taking a break? But I think there will be things like that. There will be walk and talks inside, outside. I think there will be different ways that you will be using square meters compared to before. And I think, meeting rooms, they will different comes in all forms and shapes and functions, because there is a need for it, and also I think workflows are different compared to before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much. I have another question from Dania. She's an interior architect in Malaysia. So will social distancing be a new norm and reconsideration to the space of interior furniture and circulation? We start from Jacob this time.
There's no doubt that it will be, but I think it's not like you will always have to keep 2 meter distance or then it's 1 meter distance. I think but what you will see is that the good designs, no matter whether it's indoor or outdoor, is a sequence of spaces that can accommodate the different requirements of social distancing and privacy. So if things are not going to be linear or repetition of the same, you need to create these small pockets and nuances within the spatial organization. So I think diversity and agile design is really essential, so you can accommodate all of that. And I think there's no such as a leftover space in indoor, outdoor in the future, because we need these breakout spaces. So we cannot afford to have leftover space, which unfortunately happens in cities, as an example. We need to be clever on how we're using our spaces, indoor, outdoor.
So optimization to some extent of the spaces.
Celebrating and appreciating the buffer zone, I would say.
Okay. Marianti, for you, another question from Caroline. She's from the Netherlands, so it's you're playing home here. She's also interacting. What items are a must for the future offices to have that we don't have yet?
I would just go with what first comes in mind. I think green. A lot of offices are trying to incorporate green design, biophilic design. I think we need more of that. We need a more immersive experience, I think. And you can actually, inspired by the being bold and thinking big, you can actually design now a building, even a building for an organization as a master plan, right? So you can design it flexible, you can design the framework, and then you can design for diversity. I think this diversity will be very important, and it will be very important to bring all these elements together, elements that make life together in a building, in interior design. I would not say anything about technology, because preferably technology is not visible. And it contributes, but it's not really visible. So I would say more making it more real would be my reply.
Okay, Jacob, do you see the same, or anything to add?
I think the human scale or the human-oriented design approach is going to be even more important, and that includes the social well-being. So I would really see, or we foresee in a way that the super big floor plans with endless of rows and seatings and so on, I mean, they're going to have a tough time. So it is the diversity of the buffer, the breakout space from the communities that is going to be important.
Okay, great. Okay, I would like to ask to both of you, we'll start with Marianti. Can you briefly explain one office project that you're currently working on, and just highlight to us what makes it unique, but what makes it future-proof? So, in the sense of what we've been discussing so far.
Certainly, we have a project that we are designing in Amsterdam, in the center. In a historic context, but in a kind of a new master plan area, the last building of that master plan area, close to the central station. It's for Booking.com, a very big organization that grew even more, and also suffered the consequences of the COVID era. Yeah. We saw this organization since we started, like growing, and then talking about flexibility, but in a very different way, more in a kind of multi-tenant or different ways of organizing their plan. And we were also, of course, talking about how do we called it nomads and residents, people that are working at the office and people that are working temporarily and coming and going, something that was not in their concept back then, and now it is becoming very much affected by that. We see, because the building is still in construction, it's yet to be finished next year, we see a very big shifting in the thinking. But what is very good, and we are very proud of at the same time, is that the framework we created was so robust of the community spaces, how you enter, how you connect with public transportation or with a bike, and how you create the community areas, and how you plan diverse breakout areas and amenities and the rooftop. That everything connects now in different terms, in different flexibility, in different spacings. But it allows the organization to think of itself differently, but using the same framework that was taught, 6 years ago. So it is a very living project for us, because we see it, let's say, transform through this period. And yeah, I think it's very relevant to our discussion.
Great, thank you. And Jacob, anything from you guys? Can you explain a current project where there are relevant themes for today's talk?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'm in London here today is that we're working on a project in central London where we basically the main, it's a multi-tenant office building, and the foyer is actually transformed into one big market hall. Amenities are has just grown over the next 18 months or so. So it's much more about the healthy lifestyle. You walk, you don't take the lift. We are producing urban farming and so on within the building. So it's the whole mindset about the CO2 emission that you're producing and so on. But the fact also that you're actually giving more back to the community that is around you compared to what you take and what you occupy in the city. So it becomes a 24/7 open office building where you basically the amenities and the multi-purpose space and so on can be used by the local neighborhoods or the local schools and so on. And I think it's also a little bit like looking into the flowers and the bees, that we are looking into the microclimate and have a very biophilic approach to the outdoor spaces. So it doesn't only look good, but you're actually allowed to, walk on the grass, smell the flowers, and look at the bees and so on. It sounds very romantic, and it is.
Indeed. Well, this is good. But also, I think what is important, what you're saying, is also how your building becomes a bridge for biodiversity for the neighborhood. So I think these are very interesting ideas that are now more and more explored, and everyone is more open to those, right?
Yeah.
Well, very excited about seeing these two projects completed, guys. So absolutely. So I think that we've been in this conversation for over 48 minutes now. So I think we need to wrap up, some way. And is there any final thought or messages that you wish to share with the audience, also to let them understand how they should change their design behavior? Well, we have an audience of a large audience of designers, and they would like to hear from you, any message or thought that you want to share. So Marianti, I'll leave it to you. Your message to the world.
Yeah. Okay, my message to the world. Think green. No. So I think that we need a holistic approach and what we do, and not only in the design, but in the experiences we create, because we curate communities, we curate lifestyles, and also how people work. There is a lot of, let's say, strength in our hands right now to change how things can be done and kind of convince people. So I would say that the most interesting thing and the most crucial thing in kind of summarize our discussion would be to give people the opportunity of choice in the way of working, and choice in the way they move through the city and the way they live. So I would, I would go for that as a message.
Thank you very much for your message, and I'll leave it now to Jacob with his message to the world.
I think it's very important that we all take a big responsibility to what we do on a daily basis, and that means that we should really think carefully before we design or we build. We need to, we should definitely look into the future, but we need to carefully learn into the past, and we should also celebrate the present. We should don't think in silos. We should come more often together and not be careful of sharing our knowledge, because that's the only way where we can develop and push the boundaries in a responsible way.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much also for your message. And Again, thank you very much for your time and for taking the time to participate, to our webinar. I know you're all very busy traveling now, back to traveling a lot. But I really appreciate, and I'm thankful also to the audience who had the patience to listen to our conversation up to now, but also for those who listen just to a part of it. And we will be back with the next chapter of Designing the Future early December with the focus on retail. So the date is not fixed yet, but I just suggest to everybody to stay tuned for it. And again, thank you very much, and hope to meet again very soon. Take care.
Thank you, Danilo.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.